This is a big hurricane, Category 5, may get to Category 3 and come in, going to lose a lot of property. There's 8 hours to get out of Florida now, just out of Tampa. So people are going north, south, everywhere. Just to let everybody know, we hope everybody is safe. We decided to have this today instead of tomorrow because the hurricane is going to hit either tomorrow or Wednesday. We're streaming this in many countries around the world, along with Canada, Mexico, everywhere possible. We have 72 podcasters helping us with this. Melissa Redpill, one of our famous people, is really helping us. She started this way back. So anybody who has a podcast that it wants to have on, we can expect close to 1 million people. It's going to be on the War Room. It's going to be on War Room Rumble, Getter, everywhere possible. So our first speaker today is going to be Marley Hornick. I'm not sure if she's on yet. Do you want to get Raj?
I'm here.
She is on and ready to go.
We're right on time.
Marley Hornick is always on. Love it.
Hang on 1 second. See if Anthony has that video. Oh, can you play that video first, Anthony?
Stand by. Let me make Anthony host.
I don't. Okay, Raj, you have a video you'll play?
So Steve, here's my suggestion. If you're okay with it, let's get Marley going, and I'll find the video, and I'll play it after. Is that okay? Is that okay with you?
Okay, Marley, you're on.
Okay, great. So let me get.
Okay, great. So thanks, everyone. And I just actually, it's a little not conventional, but I just want to actually say a quick prayer while everyone is here for our Creator to protect all of the beautiful people in the state of Florida and the beautiful land, that incredible part of our country and our world that you made, Creator. We're just asking for your blessing and protection on all of the good people in Florida, our beloved country, men and women. Amen. Just quick, but while we're all here, it's always good to do that together. So United Sovereign Americans, as many of you may know, is working on a comprehensive litigation strategy to secure the accuracy and legal reliability of the 2024 election returns. And as some of you know, we have filed federal lawsuits in the states of Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Texas, Michigan, North Carolina, Colorado, and Georgia. And we have more lawsuits coming in the next 2 weeks. And we have more lawsuits planned during the canvass period, which is the period during which the states are counting and verifying and reconciling all of their election records before they certify. So the principal strategy of United Sovereign Americans is to use standing Supreme Court precedent based on 150 years of consistent decisions that uphold the principle of citizens choosing our representatives in fair and honestly counted elections. And the mandamus lawsuits we've already filed in federal court, a lot of people ask me, are those lawsuits going to make a difference for the 2024 election? Those particular lawsuits in and of themselves don't make a difference. What they do is secure something that no one had in 2020. It's called standing. We have secured over 173 electoral college votes, the right to challenge those elections as a matter of civil rights before they are certified. And yes, that is a strategy, a litigation strategy that has been used successfully in the past to overturn federal elections, not the result, but the entire election. The states at times have gotten an F from federal judges and been forced to re-administer entire elections because the inconvenience to the state is minimal compared to the deprivation of a fundamental constitutional right to choose representatives on the part of the citizens. Now, what I want to say about our litigation strategy is we need your help. And I want to show everybody how you're going to help United Sovereign Americans. Because in order to successfully file the next set of lawsuits, which are injunctive relief based on the principle of civil rights, we are going to have to show the courts that there are more errors in the counting of votes than Congress allows. Now, this presents a challenge, right? What do we do as Americans when we have a challenge in front of us? We crush it. So this is no big deal. And there's an easy process already offered by United Sovereign Americans to create the evidence necessary to prove this, because states are only allowed to screw up on 1 out of every 125,000 ballots or votes. So take the 2022 midterm, for example. Even in the very biggest state in America, California, they were allowed a total of 90 mistakes in the counting of ballots. So, using the official election misconduct reporting process of United Sovereign Americans, you and all the people you've ever known in your entire life, because you're going to go and find even the people you went to kindergarten with and tell them about this process so that we can get in a couple thousand of these reports per state. You are going to save the country. Now, I'm going to share my screen and show you this web page where you're going to go. I've already clicked from Unite for Freedom. I've already clicked over to our election complaint page. And I want to show you this page. Join our effort to secure a legally valid election in 2024. File an election complaint. So if you have any trouble voting, or anyone you've ever known in your entire life has trouble voting, or you receive a mail-in ballot for someone who doesn't live at your house and perhaps never lived at your house, you need to file an official misconduct complaint. Now, it looks like you're going to file it with United Sovereign Americans, but what we're going to do is help you file a complaint with your officials who are required to investigate your complaint. Okay? You're not just telling us, you are telling your chief election official, your state attorney general, and Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States of America, in a simple process that is going to take you about 10 minutes from start to finish. That includes, you can watch our election complaint. You can see we have this lovely video. Oops, that's not the beginning, but here's a nice video. It's 3 minutes long, shows you how to use the form. Down here, you're going to click on the form. You're going to fill it out with your information. And at the end, you are going to get...
Someone needs to turn off their sound.
Somebody really needs to mute. It's almost impossible to focus.
Is everyone muted?
Someone find whoever that is that's not muted and take care of this.
Mike Short, would you unmute?
So when you fill out this form, which is going to take you a little minute, it's going to take you about 5 minutes probably to fill out the form. You are going to end up with an email in your inbox, or you may have to check your spam just to make sure it didn't inadvertently get sent over to your spam. That gives you a PDF of your entire complaint form, and it gives you the email address and the postal address for your 3 investigating officials. Your chief election official, which might be your Secretary of State, it might be your Board of Elections, your Attorney General, and the United States Attorney General. You are going to do this slightly more disciplined process. It's a little tiny bit harder than posting on Facebook and ranting. However, what you are creating is a real-time evidentiary document. Because once you have advised the officials who are required to either provide you with a valid election process or ensure you have had a valid election process, and you have provided a copy of that report to United Sovereign Americans, we have now created a record between the two of us of how many times election officials in your state and law enforcement officials in your state failed to investigate credible reports of potential denial or dilution of an eligible citizen voter's vote. And again, the state of California was allowed 90 errors in the 2022 midterm. Can you guys get us 1,000 errors per state? Can you get us 10,000 errors per state? Because when we go to court during the administrative of the 2024, we need this real-time evidence to show the judge that the law is once again being violated, just like we said was going to happen in the states of Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Texas, Michigan, North Carolina, Colorado, and Georgia. Now, you can send your report for any state because we have pre-positioned standing in at least 9 states and probably 20 states, arguably, according to our attorneys. But we need your reports to be able to show the judges that the law has been breached. So again, simple process, 10 minutes start to finish. You file your complaint on unite4freedom.com. Your complaint is sent to you in a PDF. You email it to your officials instantly. Don't waste any time. We get a copy of your complaint. We just won. We just won. The state of Colorado was allowed 21 errors in the 2022 midterm. Can you send us, Colorado, can you send us 2,000 errors? I bet you can already do it as soon as the mail-in ballots are sent. I bet you can already do this. But you have to tell everyone, everyone has to understand that when you file your official misconduct report through the United Sovereign Americans process, you are generating evidence to use in a pre-positioned litigation strategy that has already secured standing. Okay, I have no problem. There's many other ways you can report your problems. You can report them on social media. Obviously, True the Vote and Cause of America also have reporting platforms. I think Voter GA has a reporting platform. There's a lot of different reporting platforms, and I do not in any way mean to tell you not to use those platforms, but the United Sovereign Americans method for filing an election complaint is the only way for your state officials to be forced to hear your concerns, investigate your issue, and adjudicate your issue. And if they don't adjudicate it, United Sovereign Americans is ready to fight for your civil rights all the way down to the mat until we get total compliance or total accountability. And that's basically what I got for you today, Steve.
All right, thank you very much. So
thank you, sir.
You got it. Raj, you there? All right, he's not there. So let's talk about getting your app for votifynow.org. Last meeting, we talked about votifynow.org.
Yes, votifynow.org, and thank you, Molly, for that. And right before our next speaker, comes, we're gonna play a video. Right before our next speaker comes, we're gonna play a video. Please, these calls take a massive amount of resources. We're happy to do it, obviously, but I'm asking you to please help support the organizations that make these calls possible. And so right here, we have super fun organization, great merchandise. Please check out this short word from Flagshirt.
True is what we are, to the stars and the stripes, in one nation under God, where the bald eagle flies, in memory of our founding fathers, where we stand in solidarity, wearing freedom proud, believing we will endure in our most beloved nation, the home of the brave, the land of the free, is where we shall be. The flag shirt, where freedom reigns.
Okay, Greg Stenstrom is up next. Greg,
Hey, I'm here. Can you all hear me?
we can.
Outstanding. Thank you for giving me the time today. Just a few quick notes. I'm going to share my screen in a moment, Raj. But for those who are joining new and those who have heard me before, my name is Gregory Stenstrom. I'm from Pennsylvania, Delaware County in the southeast corner of Pennsylvania, just south of Philadelphia, about 20 minutes from Delaware County and about 30 minutes from Maryland. So are we good? Do we have video of me?
Not yet. Let me see if we got, let me get, Anthony, can you get a video?
I got it. I'm going to turn it on and off again so we can see it pop up. Yeah, 1 second. I had some stuff I wanted to show. So hold on. I'm going to unplug my camera and plug it back in. And let's see if it, there it goes. Okay. Do you have it now? All right, good. I didn't wear my tie today. I've been working since this morning.
Or your flag shirt?
I don't have my flag shirts in the wash. I wore it this week. I already wore it twice. So it washes well, but I'm going to need to get another one. Anyways, my name is Gregory Stenstrom. I'm from Pennsylvania, southeast corner of Pennsylvania. With the author with Leah Hoops of the parallel election regarding the 2020 election. And Leah Hoops and myself have the only case that we know of where we were co-defendants with President Trump, and we won a defamation suit against us, President Trump, Leah Hoops, myself, Rudy Giuliani, and others, using a truth as a complete defense, where we provided the evidence to the court of massive election fraud in the 2020 election. So that's something that a lot of people don't know, but that's where my creds are right now. My belief, with good reason, is that they will steal the election on November 5th and 6th. They're simply going to announce that Kamala Harris won the election. And what I want people to know is the election isn't over on November 5th and 6th. It's not over until certification, which is December 10th to 17th in the States. So this is going to be a dogfight to prove the massive election fraud and secure the election back to the rightful winner, which I expect, based on all the polls, will be President Trump. And very similar to Marley, who just got on here, she stands very well prepared to assist citizens, and we do too, and that's why I'm here. So the first thing I want to show people is, and if we can share the screen just for a minute, this case, the Supreme Court case, which is pretty thick, was just filed. It's filed in the Supreme Court and it's been served on the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. It was served on him yesterday. I'm going to share the screen here briefly. Give me a moment here. I'll bring it up. Hold on. I got to share here. Share. And I'm going to share the screen here, screen 2. Share. And you'll see this come up. I'm going to bring this case up here just briefly. And as Marley was saying, they've secured with the United Sovereign Citizens, they've got jurisdiction and standing in multiple venues. What this Supreme Court case does is, can you see this, Raj? Can everyone see this?
Yes.
It's a petition for an extraordinary writ of mandamus, and it has been delivered to the Supreme Court. It has been delivered to Merrick Garland, who is the respondent. We have 23 petitioners throughout Pennsylvania through multiple counties, and basically what this is we're directing the DOJ to fulfill their statutory duties regarding the investigation of election fraud before certification of the 2024 election. It is the policy of the DOJ and the policy of multiple attorney generals and district attorneys that they do not do investigations and they will not address reports of criminal election fraud before certification. Well, that's just plain dumb, because it's a fait accompli once the election is certified if they haven't investigated any fraud. This is a matter of policy. The law, federal law, requires them to investigate immediately. Without having those teeth, then people can commit election fraud with impunity. So what this case does is 361 pages through the 23 defendants here, is it claims Article 3 and Article 2 take care clause standing to make the DOJ comply with the law and investigate election claims. And if you go through here, I'm going to give you a link for everybody that is on here to download it. What this does is this gives it's a primer and a complete case that I hope other people will use as a reference in terms of they file lawsuits and how they gain standing. So there's two ways to gain standing. There's Article 3 standing, which requires particularized, concrete, and imminent harm if you're doing an emergency writ. But the particularized and concrete harm is very difficult. And the reason it's difficult is most of the courts will say, well, there's no evidence. Well, there's plenty of evidence. There's mountains of evidence, but the talking about is evidence from the DOJ, from the attorney generals, and from law enforcement, and they refuse to investigate. So it's a catch-22. So what defines evidence is two things. First is the burden of production. The citizens, Leah and myself, have produced mountains of evidence, videos of election officials admitting they committed massive election fraud, destroying evidence. So that's the burden of production. We've given all types of, all over the country, people have met the burden of production. But the second part of evidence is the burden of persuasion. And what a judge does have the discretion to do is to say, I'm not happy with that, what you've produced to me, so therefore you haven't met the burden of persuasion, so there is no evidence. And that's something that confuses people, is how can there be no evidence? They showed them videos. The judge has to be convinced. And the judge isn't convinced by citizens. The judges are convinced by the DOJ and by the attorney generals and by law enforcement, qualified officers of the law, to provide them that evidence. Well, for the last several elections, or at least since 2016, the DOJ has stepped out and said, we're not going to give you any of that evidence. Without that evidence, they have shackled the courts. The courts have been left out of the process, and it's been quite intentional. So if you go through this case, and I hope you'll download it after I provide the link, we provide all of the cases that we've done over the last 4 years. And then we come down and we give the standing, jurisdiction, Rule 20. It's a complex document. And then in the appendices, we provide all of the evidence that the court hasn't been allowed to consider because the DOJ did not do their job. So the simple remedy here, I'm just giving you some of the bulk here. I hope you'll review this case. It will be heard pretty soon. We've got to submit a couple of other motions to expedite and so forth, but the DOJ does have it, and the Supreme Court has it, and it's been filed. This has been a strategic case we've been planning on filing for quite a while. So I'm going to go back to addressing the screen. I'm going to stop sharing here. And I don't know how I do that. Raj, can you take that, stop the sharing there, or 1 second? I think I can do it. And I just got a few minutes to continue and tell you what else we're doing. Raj, any help there with the sharing? Oh, there we go. So we're stop sharing, right, Raj?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, good. So I got a few more things to go over because I know we're real busy today, but the SCOTUS case was the big news. We expect that this will make a significant change in the election because those that are committing fraud have been doing so with impunity, and they will not be able to do that if this order is granted, this emergency order is granted by the Supreme Court, and they direct the DOJ and all law enforcement agencies to immediately investigate election fraud. And the way that bears on certification is what the law states is that if there's evidence of election fraud, or significant election fraud, that must be adjudicated. Doesn't mean they have to completely, it has to be investigated and adjudicated before they can certify. So they're not going to be able to just sweep on and say, well, there's no election fraud, there's no election fraud, there's no evidence. This time they won't be able to do that. And that's what our hope is here. In the meantime, we also have a federal case, Mancini, Mancini, Stenstrom, Hoops, and Schwartz versus Delco is in the federal court right now regarding the unlawful use of election machines that have not been certified, had not had their software tested with secure build, what people know as hash code testing, and not been properly performed logic and accuracy. That case is in the federal court, and it is we expect to win that. And if we do win that, we expect the court to order them to either make the machines compliant, or they're going to have to go back to the way we've been doing it for 200 years, which is a hand count. We also have a case in Montgomery County on the election machines. Again, they have not certified the machines in Montgomery County. And we have a case, Michael Miller versus Lancaster County, who is also a petitioner on the SCOTUS case regarding counting ballots after the election, and a case that happened there, and that's going to contribute to the SCOTUS case. On November 4th, Leah Hoops and myself, Greg Stenstrom and Leah Hoops, have the last remaining 2020 case citing massive election fraud. It's been quashed for over 1,092 days. And they have tried 7 times now to quash that case and stop it from being heard. The Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania will finally hear that case in oral arguments on November 4th in Harrisburg. So if anybody wants to get an hour or two of excitement, I think November 4th, the day before the election, that would be a good call. We'd appreciate you being there. Now, the reason I asked is we also have, I'm watching the time. How much time do I have, Steve? Because I only have
a few minutes.
Okay. So what we've been doing in Pennsylvania, and we started doing it in a couple of counties, is we have deployed cameras, dash cams, 4K cameras. These are good enough to see the pores on your face from a good distance. So these have been already deployed, and we've got people deployed, and we've already got video back of drop boxes and of pop-up election centers and pop-up satellite centers. We've already got video coming back of ballot stuffing. We have people stuffing the drop boxes. We have at the satellite centers, we have them filling out multiple ballots per person. We have a director of elections that went into the middle of the night into a pop-up center and came out with a black box, which we suspect was a box of ballots. But we've already, in the last 3 days, documented and videoed significant malfeasance with the drop boxes and pop-up satellite centers. This was planned. And I'm going to say to anybody here and anybody who thinks they're going to commit election fraud, the SCOTUS case went in so we would make sure you got investigated. These cameras, which are deployed in many, many places, we've deployed these cameras. The people will be sitting in their cars and they won't be confronting anybody. But if you stuff a ballot box or you commit election fraud in a pop-up center, there's a good likelihood you will be videoed in full 4K color. And the videos we've already got are dumbfounding. We're going to be filing a federal case again tomorrow regarding the adjudication of the drop boxes and the satellite centers. And basically, we're going to be asking the court to shut them down. The counties, at least in Pennsylvania, cannot manage these. They're not properly monitor them, and it's a huge vector for fraud. Everyone, if they want to use a mail-in ballot, you have the U.S. Postal Service. It's tried and true for a couple of 100 years. There's plenty of mailboxes around. We don't need to be doing drop boxes, and we don't need to be doing pop-up satellite centers that aren't properly managed. And that's the issue. The issue is that the counties have shown that they cannot manage these and that they're a vector for fraud. We also have a injunction going in. We have been working diligently across the state with the petitioners from the SCOTUS. Our target, or our premise was that it was very difficult to clean the voter rolls. I know Kathy Engelbert and people that have been working valiantly to clean the voter rolls across the country. They've done a great job, and we left that to them to do. It was a necessary job. But what we did is we looked at the mail-in ballot applications. And what we did is we documented dead people applying for mail-in ballots, people who had moved out of the country, people who had moved out of state, people who have already submitted documents to the state saying, I don't live here. I live in Illinois. I live in Iowa. Don't send me a mail-in ballot. And yet the counties have persisted in sending mail-in ballots to dead people. So what we've done is we've collected that list of people that they've actually sent mail-in ballots to. Okay. And we're going to show that. We can show that they've been received, they've been mailed out, and we're going to challenge them in the federal courts as well. And we're going to say that's enough is enough. The voter registration rolls, you can register your dog Fluffy. You can register an illegal alien. But it's another thing is in order to get a mail-in ballot, you must be a qualified elector. If you're not a qualified elector, then that's an illegal ballot, and we're going to stop that ballot from being counted, which is lawful. We also have a 28-minute video coming out called The Big Con, which we'll be releasing either tomorrow, I believe tomorrow or Thursday. We'll get that to everybody. I expect it'll do pretty well on Twitter and all the different feeds, all the Twitters, and we'll send that to you. And then lastly, similar to what Marley said, is on Patriot Online, we prepared to accept Harvard reports and police reports, affidavits and declarations. We were specifically focusing on Pennsylvania, but we will be able to take those reports from across the country. And now that I know Marley is doing the same thing, I'll coordinate with her afterwards to make sure that whatever she doesn't get, I'll make sure she gets from us, and vice versa, so that we have this evidence to present to the DOJ and to law enforcement to ensure that these and any criminal actions are investigated before certification. We also have a site called mibdb.org, mibdb.org, where we have been populating that diligently. We have over 500,000 images of mail-in ballot envelopes, specifically for Delaware County right now, but we're populating that site. And I encourage anybody who would like to help. What we're doing there is we're letting people self-verify. You can log in, a voter can log in and see if someone's voted for them. If the envelope that they submitted was in fact theirs, they'll be able to view their signature and a full image. They can do that now. So lastly, I want to address, there's been a lot of different suggestions regarding what to do with mail-in ballots. Do you vote early? Do you bring the mail-in ballot on election day? And after examining it and testing this, what we did is we had a few people with mail-in ballots that had received mail-in ballots. What they did is, rather than wait until election day and burden the election poll workers, what we suggested and what we tested was that, I'll give you the website in a minute, Liz. What we suggest is that people go down and go down to the counties and vote at their counties. I don't know, different counties do different things. They may require you to surrender the mail-in ballot and then vote at the county. There's different procedures. But what we recommend is, if you've got a mail-in ballot already, rather than waiting till election day, and certainly go to election day if that's when you're going to surrender the mail-in ballot. But you can do that beforehand in a lot of states, and we've already tested it. It worked quite well. I got reports back this morning from people who had done it, and they said they had no problem. They went down to the county with their mail-in ballot. They said, look, I'd like to vote, and different procedures were used for different people. But I thought that was it was very efficacious. You're going to be hearing different.
Greg, that's time pretty much. Could you would like to say one thing? Greg has spent a lot of his own money on what he's done. Could you put up, if anybody wants to donate, and then we got to go. We got you a little bit over time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. Patriot.online. You can. There's a donate button there. If you go to www.patriot.online, that's not .com. That's not patriot.net. It's patriot.online. And then there's a button, you know, there's where you can enter the website there, but there is a donate button. We certainly need the money. We've been fortunate with to be able to raise some of the money. This case right here, to file a Supreme Court case, was $7,600 by itself, just to file the case. And we're going to be filing a multitude of federal cases to document the election fraud as we go forward. Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it. I'm going to post the download.
True patriot. Everybody loves you. All right, Linda Sinkowitz, you're up.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'll tell you, I am following two of my heroes. Marley and Greg are absolutely phenomenal with what they've been working on. I mean, all of us work on different things when we're out there. So what I'm going to do is, do you have the PSA queued up, Raj or Anthony? I had texted it over. Well, while you're looking for it, I'll give a little bit of an explanation. We just released this on Monday. I was working with an immigration attorney, and we actually came up with the one-sheeter that we put on our website a couple of weeks ago. And then we have here it is. All right, I'll let this play through. Hopefully everybody can hear it. There's still no sound. A little bit of technical difficulties. Okay, so you can actually find it on our website. Basically, what we put together was a soft touch on non-citizens that are in this country. The backstory is we had been contacted a few years back by two young men in Bridgeport, Connecticut, that were going through the legal process to become U.S. citizens. And in the midst of it, immigration sent them a letter and said they were being deported because they found out that they voted. And what they told us was that the Democrats told them because they had a job and were working here, they could vote. There is no recourse. I had talked to Ken Cuccinelli at the time, and he said, there's no recourse. It is a felony if you vote and you are not a U.S. citizen. So when this immigration attorney had contacted me about a month ago with the same idea that I had, that there are some that want to be U.S. citizens. And I should also state, people who are not U.S. citizens and are here illegally, just get out of my country, honestly. This is for the people who are here that want to become U.S. citizens, okay? So we did the soft touch, don't lose your American dream. So that's why we came out with this on Monday, to let people know there is a way they can actually have their names removed as voters on voter rolls as long as they haven't voted yet. And we also know there's a number of them that are doing it very nefariously out there. There's people that are voting in their names. But we just thought we needed to have something out there to let them know there is a way. And our country was built on people coming over. Our great-grandparents came over and wanted to be U.S. citizens. So we still do have some of them around. They're doing it the right way. But they're being overshadowed by the, 20 million that have come in illegally, and they also should leave. All right, so that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. Maybe before I get off, we can actually play it with the sound. The next thing, we have been in the Supreme Court here in Connecticut over Wanda the ballot stuffer. I'm sure all of you are familiar with seeing her on TV. I used an obscure law here in Connecticut that's been on the books actually since 1868 and was used once in 1959. Well, we found out that our Supreme Court in Connecticut had decided not to rule on the merit of the case. They actually ruled on standing. And their finding was that the 3 Bridgeport residents that filed against Wanda the ballot stuffer and Anita for their crimes, the Supreme Court in Connecticut said that they were not harmed in any way at all, therefore had no standing. But if you think about it, this doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? These were voters in that city. The law gives us the right to be able to file the stuff we did. But on top of that, the Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom or lack thereof, actually used Massachusetts law in their finding. I mean, you can't come across anything more nonsensical than first ruling that they didn't have standing and they're actual voters. And then on top of that, using Massachusetts law. So we did file for having them take another look at it. We doubt it's going to go anywhere, but we're basically saying, do you mind actually looking at Connecticut laws and not Massachusetts, since this is Connecticut? So that's one of the things we waited for 5 months, and nothing's come of it. So now we have to rely on our chief state's attorney's office, which took 5 years for her 2019 case to finally be in court, which we are going to every time she has a court appearance. So we're updating on that. The next thing I wanted to also let people know about are the overseas ballots and what's going on with that, to keep an eye on this. The Democrats actually put out a memo about a month ago saying they wanted to sign up 9 million American citizens around the world to vote. Well, the problem is there's only 4.4 million and only 2.8 are actually eligible to vote. So they are out there pushing for people to sign up around the world. And get this, you don't need any ID. No ID, no social security number. And they actually tell them to pick a zip code. Pick a zip code and file it through that. This is absolutely horrific. This is where they're going to really try to steal the votes on this. So you need to be diligent. You need to contact your Secretary of State's office. We sent a certified letter a week and a half ago wanting to know, what are you doing to verify they're actually U.S. citizens, let alone citizens in Connecticut? So we encourage you to do the same thing. We need answers on all of that. So we see so many different things that are going on, which is why it's wonderful that we have Marley and we have Greg out there doing what they're doing. Because honestly, I'm going to be reaching out with about 61,000 across the country that I can verify violated election laws. So hopefully it'll be in some of the states that you guys are looking at. The last thing, again, is that we have been giving away the free data, double registered, double voters, the lowest hanging fruit. We've had all 50 states contact us and probably about 3,000 to 3,500 separate requests. Some of them are for organizations, others are for individuals. Love what they're doing out there. They're putting our stuff out there as, being able to have people that shouldn't be on the voter rolls. Even though we know the challenge time is up, you can also use those to see if they've actually voted. Again, these are our ones that are double registered, double voted. You just go to fightvoterfraud.org, request data, download it. And right now we're about 24 hours tops that it takes us to get it out. We are really, really speeding up that process. So once again, please go to our website and look at our PSA, unless, Anthony, you have it up so it can actually have the sound with it. Is that available?
Yes, should be.
Thank you.
Anthony, you just click on share, then share the screen, and then on that screen, make sure you click. Here we go. I see the start sharing. Make sure you click the share audio and hit play.
No arriesgue su sueño americano. Don't risk your American dream. Tal vez cruzó el Darién, el desierto, o llegó a pie o en bote. El hecho es que está aquí y sueña con arreglar sus papeles. Maybe you crossed the Darien, the desert, or you arrived on foot or by boat. The fact is, you are here, and you dream of fixing your papers. ¿Sabía usted que votar sin ser ciudadano americano apagaría ese sueño permanentemente y sin remedio legal? Did you know if you vote without being an American citizen, that dream can be extinguished forever, without a remedy in law? En el 2015, una residente americana, casada con un americano y con hijos americanos, fue deportada solamente por haber votado ilegalmente. In 2015, an American resident, married to an American citizen with American-born children, was deported simply because she voted illegally. Si usted no es ciudadano y está registrado en un centro de gobierno para votar, pero aún no ha votado, se puede amparar bajo la política llamada autorización oficial. If you are not a citizen and you registered to vote at a government office, but have never voted, you may be protected under the policy known as official authorization. Vaya a su centro de registro de votación y retire su registro. Las consecuencias de votar ilegalmente son severas. Protéjase. No deje que un error apague su sueño para siempre. Go to your voter registration office and retract your registration. The consequences of voting illegally are severe. Protect yourself. Don't let an error extinguish your dreams. Para retirar su registro de votación, siga las instrucciones de su estado. No tenga miedo, está en su derecho de retirar voluntariamente su registro de votación. To retract your voter registration, follow the instructions of your state. Do not be afraid. You have the right to voluntarily retract your voter registration.
Thank you so much for putting that up. And I know some people think it's a little too soft, but we did it for a reason. There are organizations out there that are hitting hard, using the stop sign, using exclamation points, and you have the Democrats coming down on them. It's causing all kinds of issues that are out there. They can't say that this is wrong. We're being compassionate. So that's why we've put it out here. I am absolutely thrilled with my team that put this together. You can go to the website and get it, download it, or you can send me an email at Linda, Linda, at fightvoterfraud.org, and I will send you the link. We want everybody to get this out there. We are in the process of doing a radio spot as well, because that was requested from us. So thank you so much, Steve. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank
You're
you.
terrific. Next up, the lady who made precinct strategy, Dan Schultz, myself, Steve Bannon, Liz Harrington, got on a phone conversation and President Trump endorsed it. Thank you, Dan. I know you did a phenomenal job to get this done. So if you can show this, Anthony, I'm going to put up a sign. Liz Harrington is going to be on. There you go. So Liz, thank you very much. President Trump endorsed precinct strategy. Dan Schultz is the key guy here, and you're the one that did it. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Thanks so much, Steve. I just think this is incredible that you've organized these calls for so many months, because it's regular people, like we've just heard from, that are, if we're ever going to get to free and fair elections, that's who it's going to be because it's certainly a lot of forces working against free and fair elections. But I actually like that ad a lot. I understand the people wanting it to be more hard, but anything that can throw a wrench in their system, because you have to remember, a lot of these are just names to the people that are cheating. They do not care if it's a legal person, illegal, anything. It's just names to pull from to vote phantoms. So anything that can prompt somebody to go and be like, hey, take me off, take that name off the list, that's a good thing. Throw a wrench in their system. I think the stuff that Greg is talking about is phenomenal. They've been doing fantastic work. They haven't stopped. Anything you can do to support them. Marley as well. I didn't get a chance to hear her comments, but I've spoken to her recently. They're doing amazing work as well. So anything you can to support these people, they are fighting the good fight. There is a good lawsuit in Pennsylvania dealing with the UOCAVA issue. 5 congressmen have filed federal lawsuit to get them to try to at least verify identity, because they're not even hiding the fact of what they're going to try to do with UOCAVA, these foreign votes, which are supposed to be from Americans overseas. It's really, the program is intended for military members and their families. It's now been completely hijacked, diluted, try to dilute their real military vote. We've already seen evidence of it being exploited in 2020, but now they're just out and out telling you, they're going on Morning Joe. They're saying they're they're just recruiting all these great people overseas and it's all legal and everything's great. It is such a farce. They're clearly telegraphing that they're going to use that bucket to inject fake votes. So there's one lawsuit in Pennsylvania. Hopefully there soon will be more. President Trump put out a Truth Social to get the RNC to try to do something more about this. But 5 Pennsylvania congressmen filed. Department of State in Pennsylvania says, don't even check identity. You literally can use this program to get a ballot emailed to you. They don't check IP address. They don't check anything. They don't check real address, citizenship status, nothing. So obviously they're going to use that to cheat. And I think the posture of what Greg is putting forth and so many others and what President Trump has been putting out there, that's what we need the posture to be. If you cheat, you're going to jail. Make them at least think twice. You know, some people who are unwittingly kind of caught up in this mess, make them think twice. We know they're going to cheat, but we have to, you know, put them on notice and make them aware that we know what you're up to. We've learned a lot since 2020. We know what the schemes are, and we're going to catch you and find you, and we're not going to let it happen again. So I think that's really, really important. I'm just going to be brief because I don't have a ton of time, but I do want to let everyone know about some good news out of Georgia today that was very unexpected. I don't think a lot of people saw this coming, but something that really turned Fulton County, Georgia on its head, because they thought with the Secretary of State that they were going to get out of the fraud in 2020, and they thought that they were going to cook up a scheme to sweep the fraud under the rug and appoint their own monitoring team for 2024. So the whole thing is totally incoherent. They say they didn't do anything wrong, but on the other hand, oh, we will have a monitoring team. Well, if you didn't do anything wrong, if you didn't count all these ballots multiple times, if you didn't invent over 20,000 ballots out of thin air during the second machine count, why would you need monitors in the first place? Well, it's because they're trying to sweep it under the rug. They appointed their own monitoring team led by none other than Ryan Germany, who was Raffensperger's general counsel in 2020. So we got a team together of a bunch of people who covered up 2020 to monitor 2024 and of course cover that up. But it backfired on them big time because the state election board, because they appointed their own monitoring team, said, we're going to vote to subpoena all the records from Fulton County from 2020 because they still exist and they're still there. Now they can't destroy them. They can't get around it because there's a subpoena for them. And we're talking about everything. So that case, the historic case I've talked to you guys about before, SEB 2023-025, is still alive. It's real evidence of election fraud. Fulton County is not going to be able to explain this away. This is a huge deal to get the subpoenas for all these records before the statute of limitations runs out, get these investigations continuing, and hopefully get some accountability finally. I mean, some people are saying it's 4 years too late. It might be, but it's never too late to do the right thing. And if we get accountability, that is how we will fix our elections. So good, unexpected news out of Georgia today. We got to just keep the pressure on everybody, put everybody on notice, demand a free and fair election, and don't let them keep counting for days and days and days and days until they get the result they want. Everybody, Godspeed. Thanks so much for having me, Steve, and just keep up the great work.
Everybody always asks me, you know, you were the spokesman for President Trump, and I know that you left for a while. And could you give us a little background on how that worked? And, you know, on a daily basis, do you contact him? Does he contact you? Because a lot of people never know how these things happen. And, you know, they ask me all the time. I have no clue, but you do.
Well, when I was directly working for him for a while, I would talk to him a lot. You know, sometimes it'd be every day, sometimes multiple times a week. It got less and less kind of frequent as it kind of went more into campaign mode, just because, you know, I didn't feel the need to talk to him and keep him up to date about, you know, the day to day. He had plenty of other people to do that. But you know, he's just amazing. He's truly incredible. He's exactly, you know, who he is on TV, who he is in person. I mean, he's just the real deal. And I want to remind people that, you know, we are so lucky and blessed to have a leader like President Trump. It's truly once in a lifetime. Do not take it for granted. He truly does care about the country and the people. He really does. He's so generous. Everything about him is so generous and gracious to people. And you're not going to get that from anybody else in politics. You're just not. And I think it's obvious. And that's why I think he's had such staying power. It's terrible what they've tried to do to him and what they've done to him, and what they've done to the country and what they did in 2020. However, we got more years of President Trump in the arena, and that's awesome. And it's an opportunity to actually save our country. So he's the best boss you'll ever have, I ever had. And we got to do everything we can to get him back in, because otherwise there will be no country. There really won't. But we're not settling with President Trump. The complete opposite. We're getting the best leader you'll ever have.
Thank you very much, Liz. We appreciate everything you do. I know you're in the background now, but, you know, we'd like to have you come on again, and we appreciate everything. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it. See if you guys can find Dr. Robert Epstein. He was having a problem getting on, but he said he was coming on. Do you see him, Raj or Anthony? There he is.
There I am.
All right. Well, we're lucky to have Dr. Robert Epstein on today. He's world renowned. He's on many, many programs. He always sends me the clips. I was lucky to get him on. He is working feverishly to get the election so that Google doesn't steal it from us. So, Dr. Epstein, I will see you Christmas. I'll be out in San Diego. We'll have some breakfast or lunch.
Great.
And go ahead, tell us what's happening with what you're doing.
Sure. Well, I just was on RFK Jr.'s show yesterday. Just before that, I was on Joe Rogan's show again. And what I've been doing is explaining to people the role that the big tech companies are playing in this year's elections. Google especially. Google is by far the worst offender. So to put this into context, a lot of the things that my conservative friends, including Steve, whom I consider a dear friend, are concerned about are, from my perspective, they're kind of inherently competitive. In other words, both sides use any kind of dirty trick they can to try to get votes. That's always been true. It always will be true. But we need to ask ourselves, what happens if one of these big platforms, like Google, wants to support one candidate or one party? Now think about that. You see, if Google wants to support somebody, then they can send out partisan messages on their homepage, for example, which is seen 500 million times a day in the United States. And there's nothing you can do. You can't put anything on their homepage. It's not like they bought a billboard, so now you can buy another billboard to counteract them. In other words, if Google wants to support someone, there's nothing you can do. If they want to support someone in search results, for example, which, believe it or not, shift a lot of votes among undecided voters because people trust those high-ranking search results. They think they're coming from a computer, so they must be objective, they must be impartial. But there turns out they're not objective. When Google wants to support one candidate, they put at the top of their search results, they put links that lead to articles that support one candidate. And that may not affect you or me, but it affects millions of undecided voters who are very, very trusting of companies like Google. So my team and I, we're the only research team in the world that studies these issues, number one, in other words, how the internet can be used to shift opinions and votes. And number two, we're the only team that's ever built monitoring systems. We started back in 2016, and we now have in place the world's first nationwide monitoring system. So you know how these companies, especially Google, how they surveil us and our kids and our grandkids? I'm sure you all know that. They're collecting massive amounts of information about everybody. If you've been using the internet for 20 years, Google now has the equivalent of 3 million pages of information about you. They're monitoring you over more than 200 different platforms, most of which you've never even heard of. So, you know, we starting in 2016 developed the world's first systems for monitoring them. So we're surveilling the surveillors, in a sense, and we now have in place the world's first nationwide monitoring system. If you want to take a look at the data we're collecting, you can go to our real-time dashboard. It's at America's, that's America's with an S, americasdigitalshield.com, americasdigitalshield.com. And you'll see the data as the data are coming in. So where are the data coming from, and what are the data saying, and how can we trust these data? All very good questions. We're collecting the data in real time from the computers of a politically diverse group of more than 16,000 registered voters in all 50 states. We now have court admissible data in 21 states, and we're trying to increase that number as fast as we can, because the more data we preserve, the more pressure we can apply to these companies to stay out of our elections. Are they interfering in our elections? What are our data showing? Well, if you look at americasdigitalshield.com, you will be, I hope, outraged, and I hope somewhat shocked to see that Google, and to a lesser extent some other tech companies, but Google is right now, they are sending content that attacks viciously, in some cases, that attacks former President Trump, and that supports Kamala Harris, that attacks in general all Republican candidates, and in general that supports Democratic candidates. One big exception that we've run into is that right now Google is sending negative material for anyone who searches about Elizabeth Warren. And she's a Democrat, she's a liberal. Why would Google be attacking her? Because she is one of the few Democrats who's come out publicly and called for the breakup of Google. So they're trying to push her, a Democrat, out of office. In other words, they do whatever they want to do. That's the problem. How many votes can they actually shift? Well, again, they can't shift your vote or my vote, but they can shift between 20 and 80% of the votes of people who are undecided. And yes, even now, a month before the election, there are millions of people who are still undecided. Google has been pressuring those people for months already, and they're doing it even more aggressively right now. For example, we're preserving content on Google's home page to see if they're sending any messages, and to see if they're sending them out in a partisan fashion. And right now, right this minute, Google is sending go vote reminders, mail in your ballot reminders, register to vote reminders to Democrats at about 2.5 times the rate they're sending them to Republicans. Think about that. that is a blatant, that is a massive vote manipulation technique, because no one can counter it. You can't put anything on their homepage. So on election day itself, if Google keeps doing that, on election day itself, they can send at least 450,000 votes to one candidate, which of course will be the Democrat, Kamala Harris, and no one can counteract that. So that is why we are, for the first time in history, we're collecting all of this content. We're looking over the shoulders of real registered voters. We're looking at the real personalized content they're sending to real voters, and we're preserving it. We're capturing it. Normally that data is lost forever. Google calls it ephemeral. That's the term they use. It's fleeting, it's short-lived. It affects people, it disappears, and it's gone forever, normally leaving no paper trail at all. We're preserving that record. We're preserving these manipulations. And so now we can go back a year in time and look up and see what Google and other tech companies were sending to real voters. And moving forward, we can make fine adjustments and monitor anything at all that these companies are sending to people, again, looking for evidence of bias, of manipulation. And that's what we are seeing. This is true not just on Google, but also on YouTube, which Google owns. So on YouTube, for example, those recommendations they make, and then that up next video that plays automatically, that content is significantly biased towards liberals. In other words, that content, most of it is coming from liberal news sources. And that has an impact, again, on undecided voters. So what's the bottom line here? The bottom line is that at this moment in time, Google can shift in the presidential election alone between 6.4 million and 25.5 million votes. So think about that. With that much power, they basically will pick the next president unless we can get them to back down. So how are we doing that? Well, we're doing that, first of all, by preserving all this data. Secondly, by doing so publicly, therefore putting pressure on them. We're working with members of Congress and various attorneys general in different states to contact Google, and you can too, to contact Google and tell them to stop, because you can see what they're doing on americasdigitalshield.com, which is our dashboard for our big monitoring system. This system has cost about $7 million to set up. We're at this moment in time quite short of funds. Let me tell you how you can help. We now, again, are receiving data from the computers of more than 16,000 registered voters in all 50 states, and we recruit new people every single day. We call them field agents or watchdogs. We pay them a token $25 a month for helping us, which is a pittance considering what they're letting us do. They've let us put special software on their computers and to grab content from their screens whenever they're doing political searches or other things. And we're grabbing that content and analyzing it very, very quickly. We do this, by the way, without violating anyone's privacy. So we're doing the opposite of what Google does. We don't violate anyone's privacy. We protect their privacy and their anonymity. And we pay them, I say, a token fee of $25 a month, which is nothing. But once we, hit the 10,000 mark, that's $250,000 a month. So we can't keep a system like this running, and we must keep it running, by the way, because if it's not running, we'll have no idea what these companies were doing, and they will never be accountable to the public. So we must keep it running to make them accountable. So we need tens of thousands of Americans to step forward, step up, and sponsor one of our field agents. We also call them watchdogs. If you go to americasdigitalshield.com, you'll see a button you can press that says sponsor a watchdog. So if you want to help us and sponsor one of our watchdogs or field agents, go there, click on that button, and if you can afford it, even for 1 month, just donate $25. If you can afford to make that a regular donation, then click on the month after month button and help us defray our these enormous expenses we have. We are looking for major gifts, as we've gotten before. That's how we got the $7 million to build this extraordinary system. And so we're planning to build it much, much bigger than it is, and to make sure we have court admissible data in all 50 states. When we reach that point, these companies will stop. They have to stop, because we will be exposing what they are doing, and what they're doing is outrageous. Have we ever stopped them before? Oh, yeah. In 2020, I sent a summary of the data we had at that time to Senator Ted Cruz's office. Senator Cruz has been one of my biggest supporters over the years. And he asked me to testify before Congress a few years ago. And I did again, by the way, this last December, to introduce this monitoring system. Anyway, we sent our data to Senator Cruz right before the 2020 election. And on November 5th, Senators Cruz, Lee, and Johnson sent a very threatening letter to the CEO of Google saying, "You've told us you don't interfere in elections. How do you explain Epstein's data?" And then they summarized some of our findings in that letter. That same day, November 5th of the year 2020, Google shut off all of its election manipulations in the state of Georgia, which was gearing up for 2 Senate runoff elections. You may recall, they shut off all their manipulations. The bias in their search results went to zero. Yeah.
We're pretty well. Okay. Thank you very much. We got
absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Be well.
John, you got it. Next up is Cleta Mitchell, one of my favorite people of all time. Who's counting? On her Zoom every Friday. She is one of the most intelligent people, has the greatest people on there, and is trying to save our country. So come on down, Cleta. You're on. Put your Zoom.
Okay,
Unmute yourself.
there we go. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I just want to give a shout out to Steve. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and to Dr. Epstein, who is a great American hero. Really appreciate all that he's doing. We can't say enough about the work he's doing. And if any of you know what I mean, if you try to find, remember back a few months ago when they said that all of those videos of Biden tripping and wandering off during the Normandy celebrations and all, remember when they went on full attack? It was cheap fakes. Republicans were putting out cheap fakes. It was AI. It wasn't accurate. I went online to try to just find. I wanted to see what videos they were talking about. There was not one. Every single search result was the attacks on the RNC, calling them cheap fakes, etc. Not one place that just said you had to actually. I had to go to the RNC's Twitter feed to be able to find the actual videos. So that just tells you everything we need to know about Google. It's terrible. So thank you, Dr. Epstein. I just want to give a quick a call to action for everybody. There are so many things that we need people to be doing this last month before the election. Pretty scary to think, what are we, 4 weeks today, 5 weeks today? And so if you, I want to just go through a quick checklist for everybody. Number one, look and see when your state starts early voting, early in-person voting. Go vote in person the first day. Claim your ballot, claim your vote. It's really important because in 2020, we heard all over the country, people showing up on election day to vote and being told, "Oh, Mrs. Smith, it shows here that you've already voted." Well, guess what? If that happens to you, your vote is stolen. You cannot vote. They'll let you cast a provisional ballot, but they will not count your provisional ballot, because how do you prove a negative? You don't know who voted in your name. So if you can go vote, when I presume everybody on this call is registered to vote. If you're not, I don't know how you can sleep at night. But if you need to know what is the date on which you can go vote in person. And that's the day you should show up and vote. VIP 1, vote in person the first day. There are so many problems with the mail delivery all over the country. The post office has actually said that they cannot guarantee delivery of the ballots if you put them in the mailbox on the deadline, which is in many states the Friday before the election. Post office has been saying for years that's not long enough. So I say someone in the chat said take your ballot with you. I never ask for a mail ballot. Some states automatically get them sent. If that is the situation in your state, then yes, you should take your ballot with you, turn it in, make sure that they mark it invalid or spoiled or whatever. But it's very important to take responsibility for your vote. That's number one. You're registered that you're voting, making sure that your ballot is delivered to the election office, either in person. Secondly, if there are people in your community, your neighbors, your friends, your churches, if the Christians of America, if the evangelical Christians would turn out and vote, we would be able to save this country. Only about 50% by some estimates of evangelical Christians register and vote. It's crazy. Why do they think that these awful things are happening in our country? But that's number two. Make sure that other people that you know are registered and voting. Make sure they're going to vote correctly before you ask them, but make sure that to help people get registered to vote. I always say if they're not going to vote for my guy, I hope they forget there's an election, but that's not very politically correct. You're not supposed to say that. But the second thing you should think about doing after protecting and ensuring your vote is cast and properly is what else can you do? You can be a poll worker. There are still many places in the country, they're still hiring. You got paid a lot, but getting our people inside doing the counting, you should know whether or not there are places where you could do that in your community. And if you can do it, do it. Now, I realize that's hard. Some of them make these ridiculous requirements. In a state like Virginia that has 45 days of early voting, for heaven's sake, it's very difficult to ensure transparency and to get our people to work when they have so many days. But find out if that's something you could do even for a few days. See if you can do that. And then if you can't do that, sign up to be a poll observer. We have to have eyes on every ballot. We have to have people watching the election process. So if you can do that, please do that. Please do that. And if you can't do either of those things, then go door to door, go get literature, go knock doors, go work on get out the vote, make phone calls. I'm not engaged in the campaign work because we are solely focused on election integrity and the election system. So it's very important, and I hope that all of you will take it to heart to do at least one additional thing besides voting. Voting is the most important. Getting more people to vote is most important. But besides that, is there one thing that you could do to protect the integrity of the election? Volunteer to do that, to sign up to do that. I want to mention a couple of really important things. I'm going to talk about one of them, and then Heather Honey is going to follow me, talking about the problems with overseas voting, UOCAVA. I want to talk about non-citizen voting. We have absolutely been working since the early part of this year to raise awareness about the threats of non-citizen voting. And that is something that we built a website. It's www.onlycitizensvotecoalition.com, onlycitizensvotecoalition.com. And go to that website, look at the resources. There are things you can do in your local communities, watching at your DMVs, going to your election board, asking your local election officials, what are you doing to ensure that non-citizens are not getting registered to vote? And we've got sample resolutions, we've got signs you can download and leaflets you could hand out. But raising awareness until we can get these laws changed, raising awareness is about all that we can do at this point, but it's really important. And so anything that you can do to try to raise awareness in your communities about the threat of non-citizens voting, please do that. And then I want to mention one last thing, and that is we're in the process of preparing a map that we're going to put up at the onlycitizensvotecoalition.com website. That will be a map of all of the key ballot issues. There are ballot issues on the ballot in state after state after state. It is one of the ways that the left has manipulated and changed our election system. And so there are a number of states that have some very dangerous ballot issues, and they have buckets of money and we don't. But you need to be familiar with things like ranked choice voting and what a threat that is to our democratic republic. It is a left-wing manipulation system. It is how they beat Sarah Palin for Congress 2 years ago because they managed to persuade Alaska to adopt ranked choice voting. There's a measure on the ballot in Alaska this time to repeal it because they hate it. People there hate it. But it is on the ballot in Idaho. It's on the ballot in Montana. So you need to know what these ballot issues are. There are ballot issues. There are 8 states that have ballot issues to strengthen, that are good ballot issues to strengthen the requirements in state constitutions to say only citizens of the United States can vote in that state. And of course, one of the states that's on the ballot is Wisconsin, and the League of Women Voters. Anybody who ever thinks the League of Women Voters isn't a bunch of left-wing kooks, you would be wrong. They're left-wing kooks. And they are opposing the Only Citizens Vote amendment in Wisconsin. But there are 8 states where that's on the ballot. You need to know where that is and be sure you're voting for that. And then there's some states that have some things. Another left-wing proposal is to get rid of primaries and to go to California-style jungle primaries. They've got that now on the ballot. It's going to be on the ballot in Arizona. It's on the ballot in South Dakota, of all places. So be watching for it. I'll send to Steve. When we get that map up, it will be a map where you can click on your state and you can see what the key ballot issues are going to be that are on the ballot. And if you're already voting and early voting started, go look it up. Make sure you check those things before you get to the polling place. Know what the ballot issues are. But look, I mean, we are in an existential fight with the left because they want to destroy our historic system of voting. We are fighting back as much as we can. We'll never have the money that they have. We'll never have the left-wing billionaires that fund all their craziness. But the only way we fight them is with people like you and me, and fighting hard and getting involved and getting engaged. So please, everybody, VIP 1, volunteer to be an election worker or an observer, and make sure you know what's going on in the ballot issues. And let's get out there and let's reclaim our country. So with that, Steve, I'll be happy to stop.
Yeah, and hopefully you have so much information, and hopefully we get you on next Wednesday. We have so many people who want to come on, so hopefully next week you'll be able to come on again if you have time. Also, Steve,
okay, thank you, Steve.
Jail. Maureen Ballin couldn't come on, so she was going to wear a Stand With Bannon shirt. So if you want a Stand With Bannon shirt, go to standwithbannon.com. We're sending it all over Europe. People are buying it everywhere. The next thing is yournews.com. One of the most important things you can learn from today's thing, go to yournews.com. We're live there, and he has every podcast alive. Again, I want to thank all the podcasters that are on today, especially Melissa Red Pill, who's my very good friend, and all the other podcasters. Thank you so much. So next person up is Heather Honey. Thank you. You're up, Heather.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Okay, it seems to mute that. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
We can see it.
All right. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Excellent. Okay.
And you're looking great.
I am having a hard time muting this. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm going to talk today about UOCAVA voting. There's been a lot of coverage of this, which I'm happy about. I wish the coverage had come 2 years ago when we first sort of raised the alarm about this. But as most of you know, the media talks about these UOCAVA voters as military voters. I mean, without exception, almost. If
if you listen to people, even sometimes election officials refer to these overseas ballots as military ballots. And the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of these ballots are not military. In 2022, 65% of all UOCAVA ballots nationwide were not military. Only 35% were military and their dependents, right? So when they're counting these as military or non-military, the members of the military, but also their family members are considered military voters. And even so, it's only 35% of the total vote. So as Liz Harrington mentioned, UOCAVA way back when in the at the time of the Civil War, this absentee voting was intended to make sure that members of the military could vote while they were serving. In 1986, they passed the UOCAVA Act that allowed for extra time, made sure that every state would allow this category of voters to be able to vote. In 2010, the UOCAVA Act was amended by Chuck Schumer's MOVE Act. And the net effect of Chuck Schumer's MOVE Act created some additional vulnerabilities in the system, specifically required every state to email ballots to people if they requested them, right? So again, any applicant who requests an email ballot will get a ballot delivered to them by email. However, states have some discretion in terms of how they accept return ballots. And then the other significant thing is that ballots are sent to eligible UOCAVA voters 45 days, at least 45 days before the election. So after the MOVE Act was passed, which again was sold as like, oh, this is going to help the military, when in fact almost every change in the MOVE Act benefited non-military, you can see the impact here. So this is a percentage of the total vote. In 2010, when the MOVE Act passed, it was a majority military used the provisions of UOCAVA. But you can see how over time, up till the 2022 election, now it is a significantly higher percentage of non-military. So if we look at, again, kind of over time, how the use of this federal law has increased. In 2016, there were 664,000 UOCAVA ballots. In 2020, 912 returned. With all of the things that are going on this year, I would anticipate probably we're going to hit over 1 million, maybe 1.2, maybe even higher than that, depending on what's going on. And look, the fact of the matter is, we want eligible U.S. citizens to vote. We want every single solitary member of the military to vote. But the concerning thing here is that some of the provisions of the UOCAVA Act are a little bit loosey-goosey, to put it nicely. And all of this promotion is by Dems Abroad, by the Democrat Party, by all of these other NGOs. They're pushing this on social media so heavily, but they are not telling people on social media that there are citizenship requirements. So just a couple examples here of these, ads that they're pushing on social media. Hey, get your friends and vote from abroad. It doesn't say anywhere in this post that you must be a U.S. citizen or that there are other eligibility requirements from state to state. Again, these ads are everywhere. You're seeing people talk about these in Australia, in the UK, all over the place. But again, these ads do not tell the people. They do not explicitly let people know that they cannot vote from abroad if they are not U.S. citizens and if they don't meet the specific citizenship requirements. Again, so there are multiple NGOs out there pushing this. There are signs everywhere. This is a huge push. And again, what's really important here is to understand that, that while obviously there are laws that allow U.S. citizens to vote, we have to be careful that we are properly applying the law. Here's another thing that is likely going to drive up this information. So in 2021, Biden issued his executive order 14019, which essentially weaponized the entire federal government to become an arm of the Biden, now Harris campaign. And so one of the first agencies to actually publicize their plan to implement Biden's executive order was the Federal Voting Assistance Program, which is charged with overseeing the UOCAVA voting for both military and non-military. And in the FVAP plan, they talked about how they were going to partner with all of these NGOs, right? NGOs, overseas citizen NGOs. So again, taking the federal government and turning that into an arm of the campaign. So I saw this tweet a couple weeks ago and really kind of had me alarmed that this could be EO related. So somebody posted that they were, that they had not voted, they weren't in the military, they didn't live there, but they got an official .gov email that said that he had requested again, UOCAVA ballot. He said he didn't request it, so it's not like like a renewal or something. Again, what is happening here is really alarming, and we have to just be super vigilant about it. But we also have to stick to the facts, right? There's a lot of people out there talking about UOCAVA, and they're misstating the facts. So, for the record, just the facts. There are 39 states that allow some U.S. citizens who have never resided in the state to register and vote. However, each state has slightly different requirements. So if we look at the example of Arizona, Arizona says a U.S. citizen who has never resided and whose parent or legal guardian is a U.S. citizen who is registered to vote in Arizona. So here's the thing. Like in Arizona, this is a requirement. This is an eligibility requirement. So the counties who are, receiving these UOCAVA federal postcard applications have to make sure that they are verifying eligibility. Look at Georgia. Georgia is also a never resided state, says that a citizen who has never resided in the U.S. and has a parent or legal guardian who was last registered in Georgia. Again, like, you can verify this, and the counties have an obligation to verify that these applicants are eligible. And these are the kinds of things that we need to focus on. So it's not that even the states that are a little bit more sort of loose about this, it'll say a U.S. citizen who has a parent or legal guardian who last domiciled in X state. Again, that is a residency requirement that should be verified, and it is an eligibility requirement for that applicant, and it should be enforced. Because what the UOCAVA Act says is that the states must accept and process any otherwise valid voter registration application. So how do you determine if the application, this federal postcard application from this UOCAVA applicant, how do the states or the counties or the local election offices determine if it is otherwise valid, right? There are eligibility requirements in both federal and state law that have to apply before you can say, oh, this is otherwise valid and I'm going to send an email ballot. This is really important to kind of keep this in mind. This is a federal postcard application. It is a single form that people who are qualified to use it can use to both register to vote and to request an absentee ballot. So the first part, it asks you if you are a member of the military or if you are a spouse or dependent of the military. And then the next three selections are a U.S. citizen living outside, intend to return is uncertain, or never resided, never lived in the United States. So each applicant has to select one of those. Now, what's interesting, as we just talked about, some states that allow never resided means that the address that the person uses could be their parents' address from, say, 20 years ago, and the actual applicant has no association with that, but their parents did. So that's a critical component as well. And then, of course, they get to select how they want to receive their ballot. Every single state must, if requested, email a ballot, but not every state accepts an email return of a ballot. So again, we got to know the facts and know our states. So in terms of no ID required, there is ID required if the applicant has it, right? So if the person has a social security number, has a driver's license, there are fields for it. They are supposed to provide that. There is an option to say, I've not been issued either, but then there are state requirements that the states must make sure that they are receiving in order to make sure that this person is eligible. When you look at the instructions, you can see that there are, that there are instructions for this. And then there's a Section 6 requirement. Each state has the ability to determine what are the extra requirements that the person has to provide in Section 6. So for your state, go check that out, see what your state requires. As for Alaska, this is Alaska's Section 6 or additional requirements. They require a passport if you're an overseas citizen. They don't need that if you're in the military, but Alaska says if you are non-military, they want to see your passport. Perfectly okay to request that. And it's important to know that the EAC has sort of established under HAVA, the EAC hasn't, Congress using HAVA, under HAVA, established the minimum requirements for voter registration identification under HAVA. And every state has to do at least the minimum of HAVA. States all have their own things, the requirements in addition to that. But the EAC, which is charged with overseeing HAVA, put out guidance to say, hey, listen, here are the minimum requirements under federal law, but this certainly doesn't mean that states should accept or add unverified registration applications to the statewide list. So every state, again, has different rules, but there are some things that we can do. We are not helpless here. And if we can get these local election officials to understand the importance of being vigilant, that will help an awful lot. Okay, so here's another map that kind of shows you just the facts. There's a lot of people saying, oh, you're emailing ballots. The email return of ballots is permitted in some states, but not every state. So all of the dark blue states, and all of the red states, you actually have to physically mail the paper. You print out your email ballot. So that's true. You print out the email ballot, you fill it out, but you actually have to physically return it on paper. You can't return it by email. The light blue states, on the other hand, you can electronically return the ballot. But let's just make sure that when we're talking about this, we're being careful to not overstate it. So here's an example of a Section 6 requirement for Arizona. Arizona requires, because in Arizona law, they require documentary proof of citizenship. So in this case, if the applicant fails to provide documentary proof of citizenship in Arizona, this should be rejected based on the recent Supreme Court ruling in that case. And this isn't like speculation. The DOJ, the DOD, and the EAC have all confirmed that states on these federal postcard applications, that states can require documentary proof of citizenship for UOCAVA applicants if the state chooses to require that. Now, these local election officials, as I mentioned, are really the key to protecting this, extraordinary vulnerability. Again, the states are only required under federal law to accept otherwise valid voter registration applications. So these county election officials must look at these applications and determine if they are otherwise valid under state and federal law. The reason for this is obviously there are going to be people, we just looked at some of those social media posts that are saying, hey, you can vote in America without saying they have to be citizens. Some people will actually take them up on that and vote if they are ineligible. But there are bad actors out there. This is a screenshot of a post from 2020 where this GhostSec Canada, it's a vigilante hacking group, admitted that they were using these federal postcard applications to get electronic ballots and to vote unlawfully in the 2020 election. They acknowledged that they had done that. But here's the more concerning thing. Just a couple weeks ago, the DOJ indicted these Iranian folks for, attempting to, or actually hacking Trump's presidential campaign, and also
1 minute.
Okay, yeah, attempting to do harm. They want to interfere in the election. The DOJ says so. But in 2021, there was an indictment of other Iranian hackers who successfully hacked the Alaska voter registration database And what did they do with the data that they hacked? They used it to make a video of themselves creating federal postcard applications and federal emergency ballots. So they have demonstrated that they are aware of these vulnerabilities, and our local officials must be vigilant to make sure that we are not accepting and that we don't let them exploit those vulnerabilities. So again, important for you to understand what your state allows. Is your state a never resided? Does your state allow electronic returns? Do the local officials understand what UOCAVA is and what they can do? There's very little training from these state officials for local officials in terms of what they can and cannot do and what these actually are. So, you know, if you have a relationship with local election officials, find out, what are they doing? Are they aware of these attempts to exploit this system? And what are they doing to make sure that they are otherwise eligible? How are they verifying identity? How are they verifying residency? And how are they verifying eligibility? So again, please, let's get this information out there, but make sure that we're you know, learning what's going on in our states, so that when we talk about it, we're talking about it factually, and we have some credibility, and sort of making sure that our election officials are aware of how bad actors can be targeting this system.
Thanks a lot, Heather. We'll try to get you back on the other topic if we have time, okay? Todd, okay. Calendar, you're up.
There we go, Steve. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure to be with you. And I was
Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in the Bahamas, actually, getting rained on. So I'm 200 miles to the east of Miami, but all Americana. So, and I wanted to say thanks to you, Steve. You were kind enough to come on my podcast yesterday on Truth Be Told. It's Clout Hub. And I would have you know that in less than a day, you had more than 200,000 views just on our little old thing. That was, yeah, absolutely fantastic. So people are interested. And this is the coolest part about it. I'm really happy to be here with you folks. You're really, truly leaders. And it makes my point. It takes one person to make a difference. If you look at Steve, he's one man, and look at how many people he was able to inspire and encourage to get involved and take a part. It takes one. All of us have it in us. And if we can somehow inspire others to do that act of just grabbing somebody and taking them to vote, that'll make a difference. But think about what your broader implication is. And so back in 2020 or so, my law firm is called Disabled Rights Advocates. It's a pro bono law firm. All we do is public policy help for people. We did, obviously, the lawsuit against the Department of Defense that ended up having a huge effect, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the point of which is that we learned from that exercise that if we empower people, if we give them the tools and a little bit of encouragement, they'll do the job. So here we have what's called a concentration risk in lawyers. All right, we run out of lawyers to go and fight this thing. We don't need lawyers. The courts are for citizens. The courts are not for lawyers. We drafted a pro se complaint. It's an election integrity complaint. There's 3,100 and something counties in the United States, all of whom have jurisdiction, all of whom have judges. If a pro se complaint is filed in those courts, you're giving the judges an excuse to exercise their opinion and their authority. The draft complaint's really simple. Paper ballots, judge. No voting machines, judge. Oh, and by the way, we want law enforcement at every polling place. Why? Because when the crimes are being committed, the cops have their own ability, probable cause if it exists, to make arrests and to interrupt election interference. So the best thing we can do is empower as many people as we can. You arm them with the tools. If you file one of these complaints, it's really simple. Each and every complaint gives judges the authority they need. And that's where we're at. George Soros, the rest of those guys can bribe DAs. They can bribe prosecutors. They can bribe heads of police departments. But judges, on the other hand, are picked differently. In a lot of the states, they're appointed. A lot of states, they're elected, but they don't go through the regular cycles. And so it gives us an opportunity to give these people who are learned, they're certainly, they have the ability, their licenses to have an effect. And all elections are local, just like all law is local. So if you have an opportunity to empower somebody, great, grab those people and bring them over to the polling station and vote with you. But if you got anybody that's supercharged like Steve, the Energizer Bunny himself, that want to do more, this is the way you can do it. You get involved directly and you ask the court, hey, I want you to exercise your authority and put a cop everywhere and say paper ballots alone. And what I'm saying is that that effect by itself will make a difference. Why? Because every one of these that gets filed requires a lawyer on the other side to defend it. And this is actually something we learned when we sued the DOD to stop the shots. It wasn't our lawsuit that stopped the shots. It was the 400,000 service members that showed up with their pro se templates we created so that they could fight their own fight. They papered the holy hell out of the DOD. We can paper these people. They think they're good at lawfare. We're good at lawfare too. It doesn't take that many people to make a huge difference. And that was my point here, is you are a representative, Steve, of being the one, except that there's lots of people just like you. And I heard some really wonderful things today from some of the speakers. And I just got to tell you how enthusiastic I am about this. Americans showing up to be Americana. It's just beautiful. Steve, I had sent off to one of your kind people, Samantha. I don't know if you have a chance to bring it up, but I wanted to show people where you find this complaint. It's actually, our website is called 5 Small Stones, number 5 smallstones.com. There's all kinds of pro se self-help legal work. We've got a staff of lawyers and paralegals that stand by. We're willing to help people get through all this stuff. But there's a form criminal complaint. It's not criminal. I'm sorry. It's election integrity. There are criminal complaints there. But this is 57 pages long. It has all of the exhibits. Thank you very kindly. All of that's the website right there. It says take action. If you click on there, you'll see election integrity is one of them. Beautiful. So that with a complaint, and sometimes if you scroll down a little bit, it's not entirely obvious, but the complaint itself you can download. And then on top of that, you will see that there are exhibits. So the exhibits go on for, I don't know, 100 and something, not more than that, more than 100 pages. There you go. The red tabs are the exhibits themselves. And what we did is we took the really good legal work from a lot of Mr. Trump's other lawyers and people representing themselves or elsewhere. It doesn't really matter. We took the legal work from those people. We combined it into this template. We took the evidence. It's all up to date. And it just gives the county court officials the authority to exercise exactly what it is they were put there to do. And that is to uphold the law and justice. And, you know, illegal aliens showing up to these things, how about having a cop of the polling station? It's a crime in most, if not all, states to fraud the government. And that is a fraud. It's exactly what it is. Your last speaker actually hit on that. Because even hailing the federal government into this, pretending like you're out of the United States and you have to vote, is by itself a fraud. It's also a false statement. It is 18 USC 1001 is the federal statute on this. It's false statement. You can't lie to the government. So all we have to do is make people aware that we have these tools. We make people aware that the power is actually in their hands. And if we can organize a group of people to stand up and show up, I think we got a real shot at taking this election back, or taking our country back, taking our planet back, actually. I'm available for any questions if anybody wants to ask them. I know it hasn't been a huge priority heretofore, but I'd really like to hear anybody else's thoughts on this.
Put it in the chat and put your Cloud Hub in the chat so people could see it, because that's like Facebook. So we definitely want to do it. And Mary Beth, you're up right after he puts that in the chat.
Yeah, very good. What I want to say, folks, Cloud Hub is our platform. I'm the CEO of the company. And I just want people to understand we are censorship proof. Nobody can censor your thoughts. We're the marketplace of ideas. And I'm really happy to see that there's 8,000 or so people that showed up to this event right now, live. So congratulations to you, Steve, for putting us all together. And there we go. Come and join us. It's the God, Guns, and Country platform. We'd love to have you. No commercials, no censorship, just content from good people, good Americans. In fact, it's more than just Americans. It's about humanity. It's about taking our planet back. But like I say, the God, Guns, and Country platform. Come one, come all. Steve, thank you for having me. God bless you for what you're doing.
We'll have it back again. You got it.
You bet.
Jenny Beth, come on down.
Thank you so much, Steve. So I'm Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriot Citizens Fund, which is a 527 super PAC. And I am going to be talking to you, since it is election security, on the aspect that will help us make the election too big to rig. We also do other aspects related to election integrity, but today that's the aspect I'm talking to you about. I'm going to drop some links in the chat right now. I'm talking about several different websites that we have set up. The most important thing that I want to share with all of you today is something that is called relational organizing. And you're probably going, we're 4 weeks from election day today. We don't have time to learn new terms and new tools, but it's essential that we spend just a few minutes and that we learn what relational organizing is and how to do it, well, why it's important, and then how to do it. And I'm going to do that briefly, and then I'll give you information for how you can get more involved. And Steve, I think I can share my screen, so I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint that I have. This is our PowerPoint on relational organizing. Relational organizing really at its core is about building relationships with the people you know and engaging them in the political and electoral process. In years past, this was called a friends and family program. And really, relational organizing means talking to your friends and family about important issues and making sure they go vote. Now, what we do oftentimes as conservatives is we'll go door to door, knocking on doors based on a voter list that we have on an app or that a candidate has given us. And we talk to voters, and it's extremely important. And I'm not in any way suggesting you should not be doing that. Please continue to do that. And if you're not sure how to get involved, to go door to door, you can do that with the Trump campaign. You can do that with Turning Point Action, with America First Works, with the Sentinel Action Fund, and then also with us with Tea Party Patriot Citizens Fund. So there are a bunch of different places that you can go to get involved going door to door. You can make phone calls, you can send letters, you can send postcards, you can send text messages, or all these different ways to communicate with voters. But what's often missing when we go and we talk to voters in this manner is the fact that we are actually knocking on doors of people who we don't already know, who we do not know. And it is important. So everything that I'm talking about is an important slice of the pie, and I'm talking about a small sliver that can make a huge impact. So what the Democrats have done in recent years, beginning around 2018, and I think that the model began to be perfected and really, really improved upon in 2020, is that they've taken this whole notion of talking to friends and family, and they've kicked it up several notches. In 2020, in between the general election and the runoff election for the 2 U.S. Senate candidates in the state of Georgia, which is where I am from and where our office is, what John Ossoff, who had never been elected before, did was he had his campaign develop this way to communicate with people using text messages or talking to people you already know. You know, we're all guilty of it. You probably have been doing it even right here during the call. You're in the middle of a meeting, you're sitting at home on a sofa, whatever, and you send a text message to someone sitting right next to you. It's just how we communicate these days. And we upload our contacts into apps like Signal and X and Facebook and Twitter, and well, Twitter is X, and Telegram, and all these different apps, and then they match our contact list with whoever the users are of that app. Well, the Ossoff campaign decided to match people's contact lists with the targeted voter list of low propensity voters. Low propensity voter means people who don't vote in every election. They may have voted in 0 of the last 4 or 1, 2 of the last 4 general elections. When they matched it up, they returned the user to the activists' is customized, targeted, get out the vote list. I honestly think it's brilliant. And then they told people to go and communicate with their friends and family about him as a candidate and get them to vote. But they did not stop there. They asked the people to find out, they asked the activists to find out from their friends and family, what is the plan to vote of your friend? Is it voting by mail? Is it voting early in person? Or is it voting on election day? and they tracked that information. Then as the voting began, and it's beginning right now, ballots are being mailed out as we speak in all of the swing states. They started talking to the people who said they were going to vote by mail. Did you know ballots were mailed out yesterday? You should be getting your ballot tomorrow. Did you get your ballot? Have you received your ballot yet? Oh, great. I'm so glad you received it. When do you plan to turn it back in? And they continued to talk to them every single day until they turned the ballot back in and voted. If they were voting early, then they would talk to them about how they would and maybe my screen sharing isn't working. If it's not working, I apologize. I don't know what's up with that. But if they, okay, so if they were voting early, the early voting starts on Monday. Make sure that you plan to vote. What day are you planning to vote? If they say they're going to vote on Tuesday, you follow up on Tuesday. Hey, it's Tuesday. You're planning to vote today. Here's a link with all the places you can go and vote and the times you can vote. Where do you think you'll be voting? Are you voting in the morning or the afternoon? Hey, did you vote? You said you were voting at 2 o'clock. It's 4. Did you have any issues? So they just keep going until they vote. It was great and it was very effective. And in the end, John Ossoff increased the voter turnout by 3.8%. The Progressive Turnout Project used the same methodology in Hampton Roads, Virginia in 2021, and they increased voter turnout by 9.2%. And I learned about this last year from the Politico article that I'm showing you. The Politico article came out in April. I'm sorry, I learned about it 2 years ago. It came out in April, but I learned about it in October of 2022, right before the election. And I was like, oh my gosh, all that polling that says we're neck and neck. I think if the Democrats are using this, the election is not going to be a blowout like they're predicting. And indeed, I was right. It wasn't a blowout. And I think it's in large part because they are communicating with voters in a manner that goes undetected on the radar. So I started working to help develop an app to do this. And there are several different apps right now that will match contacts on the right. On the left, there's 6 or 8 different apps. I don't even know, I've lost count. They have a ton of apps. When I started doing this in January of last year and December of the year before, there were none. Now the app that Turning Point Action uses, we use it also. It's called as Patriot Project, and others use it, along with another app called Buzz 360 will match contacts. We wanted something a little bit more than just matching the contacts. So we wound up going to Numenar, and Numenar now will match contacts and allow for a survey so you can get that interactive information from your friends and family. We have all of what I'm going to go over right this second on our website, winelections.com. You can sign up for a webinar. We're offering training sessions 8 different times a week. And then if you don't want to do training sessions and you just want to download a PDF and read a guide on how to get started, you can do that as well at winelections.com. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to download Numenar, then you're going to set up an account. Once you set up an account, you have to verify your email. And I understand I'm going through this quickly, but all of these directions are written down at winelections.com. You can download the PDF for it. Once you verify the account, you go into Numenar and you will have to enter your name and address and allow it to access where you are located. You don't have to, but it gives you a few extra functions that you may be interested in having. Then you get to a page where it lists all the different campaigns. You need to go and join our organization. We are in 7 different states with this. So if you're not in these 7 states, it may not be as useful for you, but we're in all the swing states: Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And then we are also in Montana, because I just want to help beat Senator Tester in that state. So we're also in Montana. You search for Tea Party Patriot Citizens Fund in the appropriate state. Once you get in, and you select that and you join the organization, you will click on the option or touch the option that says Help Friends Vote. It'll ask to access your contacts. You say yes. Then you click on Match Contacts. Now, once you click on Match Contacts, depending on how many contacts you have, it may take a couple of minutes or even several minutes to get them matched. But I have over 25,000 contacts in my phone, and it was able to handle all of those contacts. So if you don't have a lot, it's only going to take a couple of minutes. Then it returns a list of voters to you. And when you touch one of the voters, it goes to the screen, and you can send the generic text message that we have, but I'm not interested in that. You are welcome to do that, but we all get enough blind text messages right now. What we really want is to be able to communicate with friends and family. So you go to the option that says Survey. And when you touch the option that says Survey, you see 4 different questions. We've got to add a 5th one now that ballots are going out by mail, which will be if you have already voted. So we're asking, do you plan to vote? Who are you voting for? What is your plan to vote, mail, early, or in person, or on election day? And then especially for undecided voters, what is their top issue? And then finally, we'll be asking, have they voted? You can answer the survey. You can answer one question and press save. You can go back in and answer the other questions. If they at first say they're undecided, but then you follow back up with them and they tell you they're voting for Trump, you can change the results and save that answer. So the survey results, or you can have more, you can open one, go back out to the list of voters, open another one, and you can bounce around. So the survey really gives a lot of flexibility there. I encourage you to record the responses from your friends. Now, when you're talking to the friends, this is a part I really want to highlight for you. When you are talking to the friends about the campaign, you're going to talk differently depending on who the audience is. Let's say it was my dad, a former coworker, my next door neighbor. If it's my dad, I'm not going to say, hey, Dad, are you voting A, for Kamala Harris, B, for Donald Trump, or C, undecided? That sounds weird. He's my dad. I talk to him every day, several times a day, or at least I text with him every day, several times a day. I'd probably say something more along the lines of, hey, Dad, you're voting for Trump, right? And he'd say, yes, of course I am. And I'd say, hey, how are you planning to vote? Early or on election day, or how are you voting? And that's how I'd communicate with my dad. Well, if it's a former coworker who I know who's really upset because Laken Riley was viciously murdered by illegal immigrants, I might reach out to that person and say, you know, we've been talking a lot about what happened with Laken Riley and the problem at the border. I'm voting for Trump because I know he'll secure the border. What about you? Are you getting to vote for Trump? So you see, I can't give you that script because you know how to talk to your friends and family better than I know how to talk to the people who wind up being a stranger for me. If it's my next door neighbor, I probably am not going to text them at all. I'd probably go knock on their door and just have a conversation with them. So
2 minutes, Jen.
Got it. So it will accommodate any of that. Now, if you don't know what to say to people, if they're voting for Kamala, you probably just want to wish them well and have a great day. If they say they're only voting for her for some reason that's not issue-based, you might want to share our quiz, kamalaquiz.com, with her. If they are undecided, we have a lot of information on 2 different websites, one at tpp.me/Kamala info and tpp.me/Trump info. So you can get facts about both of the candidates. If they're worried about the economy, you can read through that and copy and paste information about the economy or about crime or about the fact that Kamala says that she's not to do anything different than the entire Biden administration, whatever it might be. So we're putting that information out there and we're making it available as tools for you. So if you want to make a difference, especially if the vote winds up being as close as it was officially in Arizona or less than 10,000 votes in Arizona, 11,779 in Georgia, then use this methodology and share it with other people. Go to winelections.com, download the PDF how-to guide, install the app, and get started right away. And if you have any questions or need any help from us, you can email us at support@teapartypatriots.org, support@teapartypatriots.org.
Thanks, Jenny. We'll get you on next week again because I know you got more to say, but thank you.
Thanks.
Up next is the only one that I know that works harder than me, Mike Lindell. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. Can you all hear me okay?
We got you perfect.
All right. Here,
Next time you come on, you got to wear your flag shirt, and I'll wear
right. I'm actually doing a speaking event, everybody. I'm in Texas right now tonight. I'm doing a big speaking event. I'm going around the country in this last push for about the last 30 days or so. I'm doing a lot of events with the president rallies, but also independent speaking events to get out what we can do to secure our election platforms. I want to tell the first thing for the sake of time. I want to tell everybody one of the things I want you to do is when earlier this spring, I talked to our real president. I was going to do commercials for him where you had all these Democrats and they voted for Biden, and now we're switching and voting for Donald Trump. And I had, what would they say, or what did they say? We filmed them. And then whatever came out of their mouth, you had problem, solution. Then it was having Donald Trump, but here's what he's going to do. Well, this kept getting pushed along. And then you all know when I went to the Democrat convention, the DNC, and everyone seen me shave my mustache there. There was a reason for that. I did it to get the media's attention for my platform, Frank Speech. And Frank Speech and Frank Social, the sister company, the social media site. Because the following day, we have a lot of great hosts there, Rudy Giuliani. And the mayor and I were in Chicago, and we did all this filming on the second day. So the first day was to get everybody focused on me. Second day was to, hey, everybody look. And now here we filmed all these Democrats, and we got them all on film, hundreds of them. It was like gold. And now we're too close to the election. We're so close that what I've decided to do is make them into social media posts. When you get off this call, you all, I want you to go to X and check out, I posted the first one. The first one is posted, and they're just clips that are very important to get shared over the next 30 days. If every day you could just check out, the easiest one to check is probably my X account, or you could check True Social or whatever, but you check them all. You want to post them on all the platforms. You can just resend what I put out. That's all you need to do. Resend that post, because that post is going to be so powerful for this election you cannot imagine. When you hear some of these things that are some of the things that they said, why they're not voting for Biden anymore, they're voting for Trump, so powerful. We combine that with the president, stuff that was already out there. We don't have time. We both decided we don't have time to film, get him filmed and combine them all. We're doing it now. So every day we're going to be posting these. So that's the first thing I need you all to do. Go to X, repost that, then go to my Truth Social, repost there. Go to Frank Social. This is the next thing we're going to be talking about. Frank Social on one of the app stores. It's now called Vocal, VOCL.com. Vocal.com, VOCL.com. Remember, this site's been around now. It's my site for 3.5 years. We switched the name to Vocal. It went public, by the way, about a month ago. So Frank Speech went public. But the company, the social media platform, Vocal, VOCL.com, very important, because on there is an election app. Everything reported in this country right up to the election will go through this app, get reported there. I have over 300,000 people on the ground in all 50 states. A lot of you watch it might be part of that. Things that get posted there for this election. Yeah, somebody put in the chat, VOCL, just like that, VOCL.com. So that's also an election app. Now, Vocal is in 3 different languages. It's Spanish, Portuguese, and English. Reason for Portuguese is because I'm good friends with President Bolsonaro. We were actually going to use this in Brazil, but that'll be down. But it was all set up for actually a couple of years. We've used this app now, and we've used this links. Anything reported goes to 2 places. One is it goes to the Election Crime Bureau. That's another thing I have. It goes to the Crime Bureau, and everything is gathered there and we use it in lawsuits. We use it in all these things we have set up to be proactive in this election. If they steal it or try to steal it, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We want to get to paper ballots, hand counted, and all the stuff we're going to be gathering is going to get us to that point. I got a call from the USA today. They've been attacking me for a week about Mike. You're got all these people and all these. What are you guys up to? And all these things. They said we're up to get to paper ballots, hand counted, like 132 other countries that have banned the voting machines. But then when I talked to her, she goes, "Oh, well, if Donald Trump wins, are you gonna, I suppose it's over?" I said, "Absolutely not. That would probably be the easiest way if he wins, or when he wins, then the Democrats will all say, hey, we got to go to paper ballots, hand counted. It'll be a lot easier, as I have fought Republicans for 3.5 years. People like Crooked Brad Ratzenberger, Robin Voss, we all know the players, Tim Hammers of Arkansas, all of them. Just disgusting. We have to fight what's called the Republican Party. Well, now we have a different party, the party of common sense. So anyway, get this app vocal. It'll all be reported there. Here is the big plan that we set up last spring. And this is to be proactive in what we're going to do the day of the election and leading up to the election. We did it in the primaries. And you can check this out at lindellplan.com. It's laid out for every state. We have lawyers look at every single county. And here's what you do. And we have it going on right now. You request your mail-in ballot, you don't open it. And when you go to vote on election day, and they have to vote before that, of course your vote is better than nothing if you, you have to vote. We know that. But you go to vote on election day, and if they say you've already voted, bring out your ballot, you know I have not. Now, it lays it out right there, what should be that time for every single state. It now becomes identity theft. You guys, we will need this so much for the future, for whether, I thought our great real president knows about this. And he wants to get to paper ballot counted the same day, one day voting in our country, like all the other countries that have banned these. And I told him it's not going to be that easy. With this data that we're going to gather here, it's going to be absolutely amazing. Because then share get involved at the county level. You guys, it does another thing too. It does a couple things. One is it gets your name off the dirty voter rolls. Let's say in every state's dirty voter rolls, Wisconsin being one of the worst. They just have more of the names, 3 million names on there. But it pulls your name off the dirty voter rolls, and you're protecting your name. And I'm not saying just register to vote. I'm saying request your mail-in ballot. Because almost every state, and we lay it out there, you can do that now. You don't need a reason. You can just request it and say, I might not make it election day, whatever. And you go in with that and you're voting. And it's not a provisional ballot in most places. They say, well, Mike, that'll turn into a provisional ballot. They'll throw it in a box. What do you think if you have people that are out there voting early? I mean, we had to put this plan in. It's a beautiful plan. You're just going to have to all trust me. We need this data, and we've got a lot of it already from the primaries, and it's working. Here's what it manifests to. If you're in your county, let's say my county, Carver, Minnesota, and I'm in my county, and I've lived there all my life, and I hear that Amy Taylor, did you hear about Amy Taylor? She went to vote. They said she already voted. She had her ballot in her hand. It becomes very real to the people in that county and into our country. We want everyone, Democrats, Republicans, the people. We wanted the people to get behind, whatever goes on in this election, to get behind, hey, our most secure elections are paper ballots, hand counted. We need to get to that point, and this will help get there. Another thing this does, if you're in states, if you're watching, everyone's, talking about the swing states. In the swing states, we have many, many things in place. Legal-wise, like right now, we have a case going on in Georgia, part of my team down there, and I'm working with the great Kurt Olson. You all know Kurt Olson, and the teams we have going on. We have put stuff in place where if they do this and if they do that, if the machines shut down like they did Kerry Lake in 2022, boy, everyone's saying vote early because what if the machines don't work? We want that. we want, because this time around, they're not going to be able to keep the machine shut. Okay, we are going to be able to get into them. It would be like a real, the USA Today asked me today, they go, well, Mike, what do you think is going to be different? Do you think you've made progress, whatever? I said, absolutely. I said, do you think, I want to ask you all out there, do you think for 1 minute that we would tolerate the state of Pennsylvania or any other place for that matter saying, we're turning in our electors, we're certifying it, and we have more votes than voters? You guys, this was the most blatant, crazy thing in history, that counties and then a big state like Pennsylvania has done it 3 times in a row. 3 times in a row, 3 elections in a row. They had more votes than voters. Can you imagine, you guys, we all take a vote, there's 20 of us in a room, and we all make our votes, and we bring them out, now we bring them back in to count them, and it's 30 to 15. Where all these other votes come from? Let's not look at, let's just certify, you're the winner. This is what went on in our country. We have stuff in place across this country that won't be able to do that. If they do it, which we hope they do that, we hope they try that, because what we're looking for now is tools to get into the what really is going on in our elections here in this country. So we're watching them from every angle, but you know what? We are the ones that are, you know, my teams or whatever, and a lot of you can't, how do you watch what's inside that black box? Well, this is what we put into place, ways we're going to be able to get in that black box that we didn't have before, because they blocked us for 3.5 years from looking inside of a computer in our election. I want to say one more thing. I don't, for time's sake, I want to tell you, this also encourages everyone to vote. I just did a speech or a talk, I guess, with Hawaii. Now, Mike, everyone's going, now, Mike, why would you talk to Hawaii? Come on, they're blue. Well, here's the reason, everybody. Just like my state of Minnesota being blue since '72 when you talk about the president election. In Hawaii, when I talk to them, a lot of it's voter suppression. They go, what's the sense of me going out and voting? You know, it's going to be blue anyway. It's going to be Democrat. Well, now that you can be part of our team and request that mail-in vote in Hawaii and every state, that mail-in ballot, and you go in, and we need every state, every county, all 3,143. We need examples in every county, because we want all of the United States to say, we want to go to paper ballots, hand counted. This is the mission you all know that I've been on since I know what I know and I've seen what I've seen. We have to get to that point. Now we pray, and I really believe it's going to happen, that they can't even fight it with fake polls. Our great real president, Donald Trump, is going to override this cheat. And then at that point, it would be a lot easier then for everyone, including Democrats, to say, hey, let's see these deviations. We want to see what goes on. We want to see, we want to open up these machines. You know, we got to get rid of them. And so I'm really encouraged, and with this, so I encourage everyone to get the Vocal app. Vocal, just go to vocal.com, vocl.com, and get involved. We also, that information goes out to my other big platform, the Cause of America. You all know about that. The Cause of America has been working hard, and so many volunteers and so many people, they're going to be on the ground on election day and leading up to it. And you all can get involved in that too. And, but we all, you know, God's given us grace for such a time as this. I've never been more excited. I feel that we have everything in place we can with the cards we're dealt, with what's out there. I believe everyone's doing everything we can. I'm so encouraged by you all and people that you have told to get involved, because we all have choices. This is not a time where people can say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to pray that we get through it. God gives you powers of choice too. And your choice is you need to get involved. One of the easy things you can all do too, besides share, like I told you, every social media post that it goes up on my posts over the next 30 days, very important. These were supposed to end up being commercials, very, very important. And you can also show those were built to show Democrats, by the way. Those were built to show a Democrat. You see a Democrat going, and they're talking about, hey, I've been lied to. I'll give an example. This gal, She was 25 years old, and she was one of the ones we interviewed in Chicago. And she says, I'm not voting for Biden again. I'm voting for Donald Trump because Biden lied to me. He said our tuition was all going to be taken care of in college, and it wasn't. And then other ones would bring up, hey, all my resources now are going to the illegals. We've heard this now with FEMA, all these resources going to illegals. And here's the solution. What does our great real president say? We're going to have the biggest mass deportation in history. This is what people need to hear it from. If they're over here on the left, they need to hear it from people on the left, because they've been brainwashed and they're coming out of it. Their eyes are getting opened, everybody. I encourage, the last thing I want to talk about is the churches. There's millions of churches in this country. I could be wrong, but I believe there's millions. And who's going to fact check me? Alan Duke, the Facebook fact checkers, who, by the way, you never see him fact checking anymore because he knows it's all true. It's a little different this time around, isn't it? It'll be interesting. Everything now that's being said on Facebook, well, gee, I can't cover it up because they're on to me. It's all true. We need to go, when you go to your church to do your praying, you need to encourage everyone there to get involved in this election and tell them your concerns. I don't care if they're a Democrat or Republican. It needs to be talked about. The church can't sit back anymore. This is the spiritual battle of good and evil of epic proportions. This is historical, everybody. And if you can't be brave, go to see. I don't care if you sit outside your church or afterwards or whatever. And the Johnson law, Johnson Schmonson. I mean, if you're a pastor, you go out there and you speak out. What are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, yeah, we're going to shut you down. This is for all the marbles. This is it, everybody. You got to speak out. You got to speak out. This, what we have now is that this isn't just a Democrat-Republican thing. This is over. This is like I said before, this is a battle of good and evil that's beyond anything you'll ever see in history. And so I just encourage everybody, really go out and speak. If you don't like doing it in public, use that social media. Use every one of your accounts. I gave you all speeches before about January 7th and 8th of 2021. Those 2 days are so historical. 1.2 million Americans got deplatformed, including our great real president, Donald Trump, taking off Zuckerberg's Facebook, Twitter, Jack Dorsey's Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo. Boom, you're canceled. If you talked about Jesus Christ, the vaccine, or the election, you were canceled on those 2 days. Everyone else was afraid to do any posting on social media. But what came out of that, our voice went down to a little tiny dot, but it came back to life. Just like the old black and white TVs when I was growing up, we'd turn them off as kids and turn them back on. Well, let me tell you, we started winning those days. When we got through that, our voices got bigger and bigger. Remember, Parler got taken down that day too. That was the only thing up against the two evil platforms, Facebook and Twitter at that time. What has come since then, everybody? Frank Speech, my platform. Frank Speech, get on it. You need to get on it. Frank Social, Truth Social, Getter, Gab, Telegram, X now by Elon. By the way, everybody, what a blessing that a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago now, Elon Musk says, we have to get rid of the electronic voting machines. He said it straight up. And I still have not met him. I want to bring him stuff as we get close to the election. I will get to him, but he needs to put his voice out there. He's put his voice out for that. Obviously, the more people hear it ahead of time, and then they hear these deviations, because people say, well, Mike, we're not going to get rid of them in time. Well, of course we're not. But there's a lot of places we've already got rid of them, like Gillespie County right here in Texas. They're heroes down there. Those guys stood up to the Republicans. They said, we're doing it. And they did it. In the primary, they're going to do it again in this general election. So there are great, brave people out there that have fought through this, but we need to get the narrative out there so that this time around, when you see all these deviations and people in your own county that voted, that they say already voted, whether they're Democrat or Republican, it's not going to matter. People are going to go, wait a minute, let's look inside those black boxes. And as we move forward, and I will tell you this too, by the way, in order for them to win this time, they have to steal another 10 million votes. And if they don't do it that way, like boil the ocean, like skim off a casino. Then they have to take it in those specific states and those specific counties and try and make us believe that it would be 95,000 votes, or like in Michigan, 162,000 votes came down for Biden in the middle of the night and 2,000 for Donald Trump. And we're going to believe that? By the way, the mail-in votes in Michigan were counted on the morning of the 3rd, not in the middle of the night on the 4th. This time around, we have platforms that will report this stuff, that will report the truth. You're not going to get it from Fox News and Newsmax, everybody. You're not going to get it. They're not going to ever talk about the election platforms again. Period.
2 minutes, Mike.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Okay. No, that sounds good. So everybody, what I encourage you all to do is if you're on every social media site, if you're not on there, get on there. Get on every one. And every day you see posts on there, you have information that's pertinent to help secure our elections, to get people involved, anything. Like I say, I'm going to be posting on every site. You can make it real easy. Just go there and reshare it and reshare it and reshare it every day. Just make a point of it. And if it's not really good, take it and email all the people that you know. Or send them a text message. Send them a text message. Give it to your liberal friends or your Democrat friends or anyone on the left or anybody in the middle. Send them something. These things that we're going to put out are going to be so powerful, and it's going to make sense. Everybody that's on board already in this bucket of common sense, they already can remember December of 2019 and then see how everything is now. There's still people out there that are still brainwashed even now going, boy, the economy is really good. It's moving up. We're on the upswing. Really? Go pay 3x for everything you're doing. Go pay for shipping on anything, which has made everything go up. So I just want to encourage you all. I'm excited, as you can tell. I'm doing a speech tonight. I'm very, very excited. You guys get involved. And God's got this. And we're going to look back and say everything that had to happen, bad and good, had to happen because God uses all things for good to get us to this great place we're going. But he also needs all of you. You all have choices. Make the choice to help out and do everything you can do. God bless you all, and thanks for having me on, Steve.
You got it, Mike. Thank you very much. So we're going to have one more speaker. And before I announce that speaker, I want to thank some of the people who have helped us. Anthony, who's on our tech. Samantha, who's one of my assistants and works for us. John Farrow, who speaks to me every day, Stephen Rosenbaum, a good friend, Tina Celine in California. So our last speaker is Steve Gillen in New York, Project Civica. You want to get on there? He's doing a terrific job.
Sure, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me, Steve. It was an amazing show. I mean, all work that is being done around the country by all these individuals is just, so amazing, and it's very motivating. I'm from New York, all right? So we don't hear much talk on anybody talking about New York. And, is it a possibility that we could possibly get some good results here? See, I have a different theory on the case. If we look at the number of people that voted in 2020 in the election, in the federal election, we had 8.1 million. In 2022, we only had 5.5 million. So that's 2.5 million people that made a conscious decision not to come out to vote. Now, that could be Republicans. It could be Democrats that are just fed up with what's going on. Now, if we look at the 22 elections for the governor, which was so important for New York State, we only had 24% of the Democrats come out to vote for Kathy Hochul. Unfortunately, we only had 21% Republicans coming out. There's a huge number of people in New York that want to change. The last Rasmussen poll that came out, it was only 35% of New Yorkers think that we're moving in the right direction. So to me, New York is in play. It's in play in a number of areas. Obviously for the president, the presidential election, the congressional elections, but we at Project Civica more focus on the state elections. Because regardless of what happens in the federal elections, it will impact us, no question about it. However, us in New York are still going to be covered if things stay status quo with one-party rule. And that's just not acceptable because there's millions of us here. We lost 160,000 people last year moved out of New York. But there's millions of us here that don't want to leave New York. And the only way that we are going to change that is to get out that vote that we're talking about. All right. All these different people, the ethnic communities that we hear had a conversation today, the gentleman that's starting with the Dominicans, who's a huge, constituency here in New York, and they're fed up and they always vote Democrat. So he's starting an organization here in New York for Dominicans for Donald Trump. He's running rallies. He's doing it in Pennsylvania. But what we did is to get out the vote is what the challenge is, to get all those people that really hate New York as far as politics go. Now, why don't people come out and vote? Again, the theory is that they never have anything to vote for. They're so disgusted, and like in other states, they think, oh, we're blue and it's only going to be blue, so there's no reason for us to come out to vote. So at Project Civica, we created didn't create total initiatives, but a couple initiatives that we feel will make people come out and vote and help give them something to vote for. So what we did is, everybody may remember, in 1994, Newt Gingrich did the contract with America. It was very successful. He flipped 54 seats in the House and 9 seats in the Senate. So what we did at Project Civica, we created what was called the Common Sense Contract with New York. And what we did is develop 7 specific pledges that we are asking candidates in New York to sign on to. Make a written commitment in contract that if you come out to vote for me, that I will address these issues immediately when I get to Albany. Now, how we came up with the 7 pledges was, we had basic from exit polling and things of that nature. I picked 7 different issues that I think were important. And then we went out and focus grouped them. Most focus groups, as everybody probably knows, you'll have 20, maybe 30 people in a focus group. And those results are really taken seriously and decisions are made on it. We went out and focus grouped 292 New Yorkers to determine what they felt were the most important issues facing them immediately. So just a quick single line on the 7 pledges. The first one is immigration, to repeal all sanctuary city laws and make it illegal for money to go to a sanctuary city. So the sanctuary state, the actual pledge is, I will sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to repeal those laws. The second one is law and order. And again, for the candidates that sign on, they pledge to the voter that they will sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to repeal all pro-criminal laws and hold DAs responsible for not following the law here in New York. We have 60% of all felonies in New York in 2023 were put down to misdemeanors, and 17% of them were totally dropped. Our third one is parental rights. All right. We cannot have government overreach like we're having in our schools, in the sexuality, the morality that's going on into schools. We need people to sponsor legislation to take care of that. The fourth one is 88% of Americans want voter ID. There's a bill up in Albany since last year, and it never even made it out of the election law committee. All right. So we need legislation to push that through, but we also need legislation to have a full audit, end-to-end audit done of the New York State voter rolls. We know they're an absolute mess, all right, from past experience. Then the fifth one is the budget. Our budget is $237 billion, all right? That's higher than most larger states than New York with more population. We have that. And then the sixth one is for the mandates, medical mandates. We cannot let, again, happen to what happened to us here in New York during COVID. It was absurd. Thousands and thousands of firefighters, teachers, police officers, regular employees lost their jobs because of the unproven science. However, we had nobody up there to fight it up in Albany. And then the seventh one is energy and the economy. We have more natural gas here in New York than Saudi Arabia does, but we're not allowed to touch it. That would create, according to the Economic Council, 24,000 jobs, high-paying jobs here in New York, and bring in billions of dollars in revenue. So those are the
Steve, we got 2 minutes.
Those are the 7 pledges that we put out there. Now, Project Civica, so we're asking candidates to sign on and commit to the voter, okay? We have a right as the voter to say what we want our candidates to do. So we're, asking the candidates to sign on to that pledge. Now, we're doing other stuff at Project Civica also. We're working with Turning Point. We think that that Chase the Vote app is so important. Again, to get out the vote. We need to get people out there, and it's such a simple process. I mean, the app is great, and I'm hearing other apps that are out there. I guess a lot of people don't think New York's, worth the effort, and a lot of people will agree with that. But we at Project Civica feel it is. We've also done hand counting training. Okay, I think in 42 counties that we've trained over 150 people in hand counting. Not that it would happen in New York, but we're going to be ready if, in fact, it does move in that direction. So we're doing everything we can. We're a nonprofit 501c4, and our motto is, restore liberty through civic action. And that's what we need. And I hear what everybody's doing here today. And I also see that Mr. Schultz is on. We'll be in touch with you after these elections. Okay. Right now, I got to play nice in the sandbox. After these elections, we have to make changes here in New York, and Project Civica is there to try to lead the way. So, Steve, thank you very much for having me and giving us this platform. Anybody from New York, you can go to projectcivica.org. And you can see what the main 5 initiatives that we're pushing right now before the election. Or you can go to Common Sense Contract with New York. We have an outrageous video up there, a promo video, shows exactly what's happening in New York, and we want to make a change. So we're going to just keep working hard at it. So thank you again, Steve. I appreciate it.
We want to thank everybody who came on today. We had over 1 million people watching this. We're getting figures from all over the country. That is phenomenal. Hopefully next Wednesday we'll be back, because we usually do it every 2 weeks, but so many people want to speak today that we got more speakers next week. Again, thanks very much for all the people that helped us put this on. Go and get a flag shirt, www.theflagshirt.com. Raj, good luck with the hurricane. Hopefully everybody gets out of this thing with no problems. We'll see you next week.